Good morning. I am Dr. K. N. Murali Krishna. Today the session is that earthquakes. So in the civil engineering point of view, earthquakes will be predominant to that. Why? Because of earthquakes are any civil engineering constructions will be constructed by in the earth surface only. In that context, definitely they can know about to that. So what is the earthquake prone areas is there, and how will be fall down of in the earthquakes. So today's the topic is that earthquakes. So before going to the earthquakes, definitely we know about to the definition. So what is the definition of earthquake? The sudden vibrations will be occurring in that earth surface and subsurface. We call it as an earthquake. So most probably earthquakes are fall down in that. So earthquakes are fall down to that along the fault plane. So if you seen into that, this particular place, this is that one faulted zone, we call it as. So these faulted zone, along with that, some earthquakes will be developed. So based on the places that, so that's we call it as a focus. So due to faulting, the earthquakes are developed. So in the many places to that. So what happened to that? In that, when the earthquake will be fall down to that, the energy will be released. When the energy will be released, in that one particular point of time, the energy will be reached onto the up to surface area. So it will be affected onto that earthquake. In the land surface, we call it as an earthquake. In the similar vibrations will be developing in the oceans, we call it as the tsunamis. So this is the general definition of earthquake. So when the after affecting of earthquake, after affecting of earthquakes, it will be major changes will be occurring to that. So well, because of the major buildings will be collapsed, and also roads and railway networks and different transportation facilities were disturbed, and at the similar time rivers also the directions will be changed because of due to earthquakes. There will be changes of the directions. So these are the factors will be affected by in that surface area, surface features. So in that context, so when you build any type of construction in that particular area, we know about to that what is the seismic activity and what are the seismic zone, which zone will be fall into that in that particular area. We remember to that while will be before construction time. So then only we identify to that earthquakes. So terminology of earthquakes. So terminology means when the earthquakes will be formed. So based on the different regions, because of due to faulting the earthquakes are formed. So in that terminology, whichever places the started point we call it as, so that will be called it as focus. So focus means originated place. So those internal disturbance continuously occurring to that. Why? Because of those continents will be collision continuously. So in that continuous process, the rupture will be developed. In that rupture, some type of energies will be released. So those energy will be moved forward to that another place. So this starting point we call it as focus. And these energy lines, for example, if you see to that these lines, we call it as isoseismal lines. So these lines we call it as isoseismal lines. So these isoseismal lines are reached into the surface. So this particular point we call it as epicenter. So these are the energy propagators, and the energy will be released in the focus point. The energy released up to surface. So these isoseismal lines will be propagated. The energy will be up to meet in that epicenter. So epicenter means when the originated place to when the line will be meet in that surface point, we call it as epicenter. So these 3 points we call it as terminology of earthquakes. When the focus means originated point, isoseismals means energy propagators, epicenter means when the energy will be released onto that meet into the surface line, it will be called as epicenter. So due to faulting lines, the earthquakes are developed. So this is the fault line. So in the world having the different types of faults is there. So because of when the formation time, based on the tectonic movement, they will be developed in the different types of faults. In that faults, the continuously rupture will be occurring into that. So when the particular time, so definitely the earthquake will be comes into that. Maybe the bigger time, maybe in the small earthquakes are coming, and maybe in the sense will be major earthquakes also coming to that. So this is about to that terminology of earthquake. And based on the elastic rebound theory, earthquakes will be very free-definedly explained to that. So if you seen in those images, so along the fault line, so due to some disturbances will be occurring into that. Because of this is a original position, so based on the energies will be released, so the bed will be deformed. For example, here the transform faults will be occurring to that. That is, we call it as a lateral movement will be occurring. When the lateral will be occurring into that, so those will be passages, slide passages. So if you simple sense will be identified to that, these pass each other, those beds, so definitely the rocks will be ruptured. So based on the elastic rebound theory, so rocks having some tensile movement, it will be the movement will be increases, continuously increases, so they will be rebound to that. Rebound means the original places to another new formations will be developed. Based on that elastic rebound theory, the rocks having some ruptures, so definitely they will be rebound to that. So based on the rebound theory, based on the energy conditions, the rocks will be bended, these like of formations will be developed after affected of earthquakes. So this is about to that elastic rebound theory. So this theory will be explained to that the great scientist that H.F. Fried. So this theory will be explained to that based on the reasons. So the rock, how will be rock will be developed. So due to internal disturbances. So then finally what will be happen to that? So definitely the rocks will be slide to each other. So this is the best example of to that transform faults. So transform faults are having so lateral movement will be occurring into that. So this is one example for transform fault. So what is the instrument will be identified to that? So this is the seismograph is the instrument name. This seismograph will be identified that which places will be affected by that, how much of earthquake will be coming into that. So after affected of earthquake, so we will be find out to that. So based on that effect of earthquakes. So this is the seismograph instrument. So these stands will be identified to that, these graph will be identified, the wave propagations, it's maybe different energies will be identified to that. So then this instrument will be given to that. So this much of earthquake will be evolved in that earlier time. So this is about to that identification of earthquakes by using of seismograph. So where do earthquakes occur? How is often? So based on that, we already know to that in the earlier time and at the formation time, one supercontinent is there, one superocean is there. One supercontinent name is that Pangaea. So Pangaea is the one supercontinent and Panthalassa is the one superocean. So based on the tectonic movement, the water will be involved into that Earth's surface area, the continents will be developed. So based on the tectonic theory, it will be effective to that various fault zones will be developed because of so various plates will be collision to that. So the fault zone will be developed. So this is the entire world. So different fault zones will be developed. So these red color indicates to that various fault zones. So how fault zones are affected from the earthquakes? So for example, in the tectonic theory, so we have two different theories will be there. One is that convergent boundaries. Another one is divergent. So convergent means when the two plates will be collision to that, slide past each other. So in that time the earthquakes will be allowed. So in the divergent means when the energies will be released away from each other. So in that time the trenches will be formed. So this is the divergent boundary. So this is the convergent boundary. So in the convergent boundaries are most probably it gives to that formations of earthquakes. Since that most of the in the Pacific regions in the belt, so most probably will be affecting of various type of earthquakes based on that releasing of energy conditions. So if that every year we find out to that almost 1,50,000 earthquakes in the entire world, we find out to that based on the energy levels are different. So these are the earthquakes will be identification is the some point of time will be identified to that, because of in the Pacific region is the continuously the place will be ruptured to that. In that place we will be monitored to that by using of seismograph. So definitely how the intensity level will be there in that particular region, we are to find out to that in that particular place only. So after affecting of earthquakes, what will be happen to that? So the buildings are collapsed. So maybe the fire existence will be disturbed. So maybe in the earthquakes is comes under from the oceans. So we call it as the tsunamis. In the tsunami will be developed in that. So many places also will be disturbed. So based on that ground failures. So these are the after affecting of earthquakes, this is a great economic loss will be occurring to that. So what are the seismic waves? So seismic waves are to identification of subsurface and subsurface what type of rock structures is there. So in the seismic waves there are the three waves is there. One is that P waves, another one is the S waves, another one is the Rayleigh waves or L waves. So P waves were traveled from the both solids and liquids, and when will be propagate the P waves, so definitely the wave will be propagated in the liquid state also and solid state also. So these the energy conditions how will be varied to that. So the P waves will be identify that. And the S waves are we call it as the shear waves. So shear waves are only travel from the solid body. So any solid particles is there, the S waves will also travel to that. And the another one is that R waves or L waves. R waves means the Rayleigh waves, L waves means Love waves. These are the body waves. Surface waves. So these are the whether it is the earthquakes is coming to that shallow depths. So that will be energies release that low waves. So it will be great impact will be created to that. So why? Because of earthquakes in the coming into the shallow depths, definitely the energy releases very high. So definitely major disturbances will be occurring while will be shallow earthquakes. So that will be called as low waves. So these are the how the waves will be propagated at P and S waves. Already known to that P waves are traveled to that both solids and liquids. It will be definitely the compressional waves. At the same time, S waves will be called as slower than to P waves. It will be traveled to only solids. So this will be called as the shear waves. So and L waves are most dangerous waves. It will be developing onto that the shallow depths. Major damage will be occurring into that. While will be coming off L waves. So this is the one reason while affecting of L waves, so maybe greater disturbances will be occurring into that. If you seen into that Rayleigh wave and Love waves, how the deformed to that in the rock masses, it will be displaced and the greater existent to that. So this is the major effect of earthquakes. Can earthquakes are predicted? So I says to that we predict to that earthquakes. So we have to continuously monitor in the particular place ruptured zones. So in the world wise many zones are there, faulted zones are there. So few zones will definitely be every year some earthquakes are coming from to those particular place. So definitely those particular place we have to continuously monitor to that. How much of earthquake will be coming in the future scenario, we predict to that. So this is that predicted place to that. For example, if you seen into that sand dune on the particular place, so this is affected from every year we find out to that similar earthquakes coming to those places. So definitely we observe in that particular place definitely. So in the similar way scenario, so which are the places will be most of the earthquakes will be coming from to that those areas. We find out to that. So definitely we predict to that. So this is about to that earthquake phenomenon area to that entire world map. So if you seen into that, most probably in that red colorizations indicated that some acceleration movements will be varying to that. So those places we have to monitor to that continuously. So in the coming years, which places will be affected from the earthquakes. So those identifications much more needed for that by seismologists. So can you earthquake control it? So I said that we control to that earthquakes. Why? Because of in the rupture place some gaps will be identified. For example, if you seen into that, so this is the faulted zone. In that faulted zone, so in that one, this is the another rock masses. This is the another rock masses. So these faulted zones will be disturbances will be occurring into that continuously. In that faulted zones, definitely we release to that some fluids. So based on that, any water and any density control materials we injected to these places. So definitely the rupture levels will be decreases. So when you releases of any fluids, so the rupture level will be decreasing to that. So in that point of view only we control to that earthquakes. So this is the only for few places only, because of almost in that entire world almost 1,15,000 places will be affected for earthquakes, but all places will be identified. It is a difficult process to inject the fluids, but we have to predict one place, so which are the affected from major earthquakes. So in that area we injected the fluids, so we reduced to that loss of economic point of view in that particular area. So this is way controlling of earthquakes. So earlier days, different scales will be utilized to that by identification of earthquakes. So that is that. So presently we are using for two types of scales. One is the Rossiforol scale, another one is the Richter scale. So what is the difference between the Rossiforol and Richter scale? So Rossiforol scale will be identified to that earthquakes after affected of earthquake, how people will be react. Based on the reactions, they will be developed 1 to 9 in the scale ranges to that. So when they gives to that 9, this will be major damage will be occurring into that by using of Rossiforol scale. But Richter scale will be identified by mathematical formula, that is the magnitude wise. So they will be defined to that 1 to 9. If the Richter scale will be more than 4.5, so there will be greater damage will be occurring to that. So most of the people will be following to that. So that is the Richter scale. So Richter scale will be developed by using of mathematical formula. It will be magnitude of earthquake. Magnitude of earthquake. So Rossiforol scale will be developed based on the people reactions. So when any incident will be occurring into that any place, so the people will be reacted to that. So and so places the earthquake will be coming. So based on the earthquake, some people will be deferred to that. Some places will be collapsed to that. So based on the region, so they developed to that Rossiforol scale. So based on the magnitude wise, they will be derived some mathematical formula. So that will be called as Richter intensity scale. So this is about the Rossiforol scale. So Rossiforol scale major will be what are the disturbances, what are the destructions will be occurring under that, how the people will be reacted in that surrounding areas. So they divided to that 1 to 9. So when the Rossiforol scale will be given 9, so 9 will be most affected from earthquake plus in the particular area. So this is about to that Rossiforol scale. A Richter scale will be major differentiation between to that American seismologists. So that is that magnitude of earthquake. So they will be calculated a mathematical formula and they given to that one scale to that is the 1 to 9. So if you seen into that in the Richter scale, so 0 to 1.9, so can be detected only in the seismograph. Whether it is the Richter scale is the 2 to 2.9, so they will be hanging to some objects or string. Some vibrations will be occurring. So there is one place will be wind coming to that, so the particle will be moving into one place to another place. So in the similar reactions will be occurring into that when the Richter scale intensity scale is the 2 to 2.9, and the Richter scale 3 to 3.9 is there. So they will be vibrating to that. The place will be vibrating. It's similar like that. So when our mobile will be in that some vibration mode. So some similar wise, when anyone will be calling in that the particular time, the phone will be moving on to that. The similar vibrations will be occurring into that ground surface also. The Richter scale intensity scale is the 3 to 3.9, and the 4 to 4.9 may be so breakdowns of windows. So any in that any furniture items are also any windows and glass windows will be break down to that particular conditions of energy. So in that 4 to 4.9 the windows will be break down to that, and 5 to 5.9 so the furnitures and the remaining things will be moved to one place to another place. So the simple example for that, so in the slope directions will be slope is there in that one in any room. So in the similar manner the gravitational movement will be occurring to that. In the similar occurrence, the movement of gravitational movement, the floor will be any chairs or any material will be move on to the downward direction. In the same actions will be identified to that when the Richter scale intensity scale identified to that 5 to 5.9. In the similar side to that 6 to 9, if the major 6 is there, definitely major changes will be occurring and major disturbances will be occurring into that. Recently we have to seen in the different type of, recently the Turkey will be affected from earthquakes. So those are the magnitude levels will be more than 6. So in the Richter intensity scale more than 6 is there, definitely the buildings and entire transportation places all will be great economic loss will be identified to that. So this is about Richter intensity scale. So based on the Richter intensity scale more than 6 is there, so definitely major damages will be occurring into that. So classification of earthquakes. So based on the origin time, based on the place time, the classification of earthquakes will be defined to that. So two classifications is there. The classification one is that depending on the mode of origin of earthquakes are classified into that following groups. One is that earthquakes due to the surface causes. So earthquake due to the surface causes, very less earthquakes will be identified that. So when is the creep or avalanches or landslides, these are the example to that. So in the creep or avalanches means, so for example this is the one hilly area. So one rock masses will be flow down to that downward movement. So debris movement. Debris movement means huge material will be fall down to that earth surfaces. Or creep also same, or landslides also them, and major material will be collapsed into that. Major material will be collapsed into that. That's we call it as landslide. So major debris material will fall down to that. So debris material means unconsolidated material fall down to that earth surfaces. So these are the developing at smaller earthquakes. So there is no greater effect will be not identified in that these type of earthquakes. In the similar volcanic causes also identified to that earthquakes. So these are the major. Volcanic means that not feeble, and maybe it's a feeble means it that not affected for anyone based on the Altan. But earthquakes come to the tectonic causes, so definitely there will be greater economic loss will be identified to that. So the classification one will be depends on that mode of origin of earthquakes. So these three will be identified to that. First one is that earthquakes due to surface causes. It means based on the debris flow, based on the landslides, so based on the creep. So these three, so not disturbed to the any particular areas. Not there is no economic loss will be identified to that. So based on these type of earthquakes. So while coming comparatively these three one tectonic causes are major affected will be occurring to that. And classification to that based on the depth. So as already we discussed to that. So if you seen into that earth consists of different layers. So that is that one is the crust. So another one is the mantle, another one is the core. Is the zero level is up to 6371, so the approximate distance. So this is up to 12 kilometers, we call it as a crustal. Up to 2371 we call it as a mantle. So these are the different places. So for example, if you earthquake comes under from the core places, here will be developed almost here the depth will be almost 3000 to 4000 meters kilometers. The energy releases to here the travel time will be a very huge time is there, but here the when the in that travel time the energy also reduced to that, because of it will be greater distance will be occurring into that. In the similar time, the earthquake comes under from 300 to 400 meters. In the similar effect will be there. It will be not major affected for any earth surface. While earthquakes coming under the shallow depths, it means in that 30 to 50 kilometers ranges. So definitely in the surface area, major collapses will be occurring into that. Comparatively, these three shallow earthquakes are greater affecting for that in that land surface areas. So this is based on the classification of, it means based on that depth of variations will be identified. Maybe in the shallow depths, so major affected will be occurring into that based on the earthquake. So comparatively, these three shallow earthquakes are most dangerous earthquakes. So while we will be coming on to that shallow depths, so definitely greater losses will be occurring into that. So this is about the classification of earthquakes. But in this class we know about to that definition of earthquake and how will be affected from earthquakes, and what is the elastic rebound theory, and that based on to that various scales, either the Rossy-Forel scale, either it is a Richter scale, how will be calculated to that. So based on the classification, based on the origin, based on the depth, so we discuss about to that in this class. Thank you.